All right, let's dive right into something that's super common, but, we don't really talk about it enough. It's that slow fade in long term relationships, where you go from passionate lovers to just comfortable roommates. So today, we're going to walk through a 5 step plan to help reignite that spark.
Wow, this quote, that just hits you, right? It comes from a Reddit user, and it just perfectly captures this feeling that so many couples get after they've been together for years. The love is still there, for sure. The friendship is rock solid. But that physical intimacy, it's kind of just fizzled out.
And look, if that sounds even a little bit familiar, the first thing you need to know is you are not alone, not by a long shot. When comfort and routine and just the grind of daily life take over, it's easy to feel really isolated. But this is something millions of couples go through. It doesn't mean you failed. It just means the relationship needs a little intentional TLC. There's actually a clinical term for this whole situation. It's called desire discrepancy, and it's one of the biggest reasons couples end up in therapy. But here's the thing, it doesn't mean your relationship is broken. Not at all. It's just a dynamic, something that you have to understand and figure out how to navigate together.
Okay, so step one is all about understanding the disconnect. And the big takeaway here is that a lack of sex is almost never just about sex. Nope. It's usually a symptom of something deeper. These underlying issues that have been slowly building up over time.
And here are some of the usual suspects. We're talking about things like aging, health changes, stress from work or money. Gosh, the list goes on. Poor communication, old fights that never got resolved, just plain old boredom. These aren't just relationship problems, they're life problems, right? And they all suck the energy right out of you, the energy you need for intimacy. So just figuring out which of these might be in the mix for you, that's the absolute first, most crucial step. All right, which brings us to step 2, rebuilding that emotional intimacy. And this is so, so important. The path back to a great sex life, it doesn't start in the bedroom at all. It starts way outside of it, with rebuilding that core emotional connection. I mean, think about it. You can't just jump straight to the physical stuff and expect fireworks. It just doesn't work that way. For sex to be really meaningful and connecting, you need a solid foundation of, that tender, heart-to-heart, totally safe kind of intimacy. It's all about feeling seen, feeling valued, and feeling safe with each other first. And hey, this isn't just some fluffy, feel-good idea. We've got the data to prove it. The famous Gottman Institute found that couples who really know each other's inner worlds, they call them love maps, are a whopping 60% more likely to say they're satisfied with their sex life. 60%! That's huge. So, how do you build this love map? Well, it's actually not that complicated. It's really just about getting curious about your partner again. Ask questions like, what's something you're excited about right now? Or, how can I support you this week? Even, what's one thing I can do to make you feel more desired? Seriously, just setting aside 15 minutes a day for this kind of talk can completely transform the emotional vibe in your relationship. Okay, so once that emotional foundation is feeling a bit more solid, it's time for step 3. And yeah, this is the one we've got to actually talk about sex. But how in the world do you talk about sex without it turning into a huge fight? This is a massive hurdle for so many couples. You know that fear, the fear of blame or rejection, or just how awkward it's going to be? That fear makes us avoid the conversation completely, which of course just makes everything worse. Well, it all comes down to this one simple shift: criticism versus invitation. Instead of saying something like, you never initiate anymore, which is just going to make them defensive, right? Try an invitation. Something like, I've been feeling a little disconnected lately, and I'd love to find ways for us to connect more. Would you be open to talking about that? See the difference? One points a finger, the other opens a door. It's a total game changer. And the payoff for making that little shift, it is massive. Get this. The American Psychological Association found that couples who can talk openly about this stuff report being 50% more satisfied. Half. That is definitely a conversation worth having. All right, so once you're talking, the next step is pretty logical. You've got to break the routine. It's time to shake things up a little and introduce something new to break out of that comfy but boring roommate run. The brilliant therapist Esther Perel puts it perfectly. She says desire thrives on novelty, spontaneity, and anticipation. Basically, desire isn't something that's just there. It's an energy you have to cultivate. It needs a little mystery, a little playfulness, all this stuff that kind of disappears when we get too comfortable. And listen, novelty doesn't mean you have to go do something crazy. Not at all. It can be as simple as planning a night away in a hotel, or even just sending a flirty text in the middle of the day to build up some anticipation. Or hey, maybe it's finally creating that safe space to talk about some fantasies you've both wondered about. And you know what's kind of cool? Technology can actually help with this. There are apps out there, like Spicer, Paired, Kindu, that are designed to make this whole exploration thing way less intimidating and a lot more fun. They work like a game, helping you both discover what you're into without any of the awkwardness. And that brings us to our final step. Step 5, make intimacy a priority. This is the big one. It means you have to start treating your intimate life with the same focus and intention you give to everything else that's important. Your job, your money, your kids' soccer practice. Now, I know what you're thinking. Scheduling sex? How unromantic. But hang on, think about it this way. Scheduling is a powerful signal that you're making your connection a priority. It's about planning a date night, switching off the phones, even just committing to non-sexual touch, like cuddling. It makes sure that your relationship doesn't just get the tired, leftover scraps of energy at the end of the week. You know, underneath all of these steps is one big mindset shift. It's about believing in what's called sexual growth. That means understanding that a great sex life isn't about destiny or just having chemistry. It's something you build. It takes work, and it can always be improved. And it's so important to remember the real goal here. This isn't just about having more sex. That's not the point. The point of all these steps is to rebuild that deep connection, both emotional and physical, that makes intimacy feel so amazing and makes it last. I love this quote from Dr. Emily Nagoski. She says, "Desire is not a drive, it's responsive, contextual, and varied." And that just changes everything, doesn't it? It means you don't have to just sit around and wait for desire to strike like lightning. You actually have the power to create the right environment for it to show up by building safety, talking openly, and having some fun. So as we wrap this up, let's be real. This isn't about some massive overnight transformation. It's about starting a journey. It's about taking one small step. So the question to leave you with is this. What is one small intentional thing you can do today to start changing the context of your relationship? To start that shift from roommates back to lovers?